never imagined my quiet Saturday morning would turn into the day everything shifted in my life. If someone had told me that my cat, my sweet, chunky, slightly dramatic orange tabby named Oliver, would drag me into the backyard and force me to confront something I never expected to see, I would have laughed. Oliver barely dragged himself off the couch most days, let alone dragged me anywhere. But that morning, from the moment I woke up, something about him was different. I felt it before I even understood it. And now, looking back, I realize he probably felt it before I did. The hook hit me right away. Maybe it was his eyes. I'd never seen them like that. Wide, unblinking, almost demanding. The moment I opened my bedroom door, Oliver didn't meow the way he usually did. He didn't flop onto the floor and roll over, waiting for his belly rubs. He didn't trudge toward his bowl expecting an early breakfast. Instead, he stood perfectly still in the hallway, his tail low, his body tense, and his gaze locked on me like he was trying to communicate something urgent. I froze for a second, confused, wondering if maybe he was hurt. But then he gave a short, sharp sound. Not quite a meow, not quite a cry. It was something else. And then he walked a few steps, stopped, turned, and looked back at me. It was the look that said, "Follow me. Now." I frowned and whispered, "Oliver, what is it, baby?" But he didn't blink. He just started walking again, slow, paced, deliberate. I don't know why, but I followed. Something in my chest tightened, instinct or dread, or maybe just the strange seriousness in his movements. With every step he took, I grew more uneasy, and that uneasiness only deepened as he led me not to the kitchen, not to the bowl he expected filled, not to the door where he usually begged to sit in the sun, but all the way to the backsliding door. He sat down in front of it and scratched once, just once, at the glass. Oliver never scratched to go outside. He wasn't that kind of cat. He preferred the comfort of blankets, couches, and warm spots. But here he was, staring at the backyard like something was waiting for us. I hesitated. "Do you want to go out?" I asked. But he didn't look at me, not even a flick of his ear. He only kept staring forward, breathing fast enough that I could see the slight movement in his sides. Still half asleep, I unlocked the door and slid it open. The air outside was crisp with that early morning coolness, the kind that usually feels refreshing. But as soon as I stepped onto the porch, a chill crawled down my shoulders. Something felt wrong. There was no wind, no birdsong, no rustling of leaves, just a heavy silence that didn't match the time of day. Oliver slipped out quickly, faster than I'd ever seen him move without food being involved. He didn't wander. He didn't sniff around. He didn't explore. He sprinted across the porch, stopped at the grass, then looked back at me again with that same commanding stare. I followed him, barefoot, no jacket, just my thin pajama shirt and sleep-rumpled hair. I didn't think about anything else except that my cat was acting like the house was on fire, and I needed to listen to him. He walked across the yard with short, urgent steps, his tail low but firm, leading me toward the old oak tree at the far left corner. That tree had been there long before I bought the house, its roots thick, its trunk weathered, its branches stretching wide like arms that had seen generations come and go. I rarely went near it unless I was mowing the grass, but Oliver approached it with purpose, and the closer he got, the faster my heartbeat became. I kept whispering his name, asking what was wrong, even though I knew he couldn't answer. But he understood the question. He understood everything in that moment. When he reached the base of the oak tree, he stopped. He looked down. He chirped, a soft, strange, trembling sound. Then he looked up at me, and I saw it. A disturbance on the ground. A section of dirt that didn't look the same as the rest, like something had been moved recently, shifted, disturbed. My backyard was usually undisturbed. Nothing ever happened out there. But this spot, this patch of soil, looked like someone had touched it, or dug there. or something else. My breath caught. I stepped closer, feeling the cool dew soaking my feet. As I approached, Oliver backed up and sat beside the tree, watching me intensely like he wanted to make sure I understood whatever message he was trying to give. I crouched down, brushed my fingers lightly over the dirt, and felt that same wave of uneasiness sweep over me. The earth was soft, too soft for a dry week like we'd had. And as I pressed my hand into it, the soil loosened and gave way far too easily. "Oliver," I whispered, my voice trembling now. "What is this?" He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just watched. I swallowed hard and began brushing away more of the dirt. At first, I thought maybe an animal had dug something up. Maybe a raccoon or a stray dog. But the more I revealed, the more a shape began forming beneath the surface. A shape that wasn't natural, and definitely wasn't an animal. My hands shook as I uncovered the top edge of something smooth. Too smooth. Straight lines. A corner. Wood. Old worn wood. A box. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. Every instinct told me to stop, to back away, to call someone, to close the door and pretend I never saw any of this. But my hands didn't stop. I dug faster, scooping away handfuls of soil until the outline of the box became clearer. It wasn't large, not coffin-sized, nothing like that. But it was big enough to matter. Big enough to be hiding something important. Or dangerous. Or both. Oliver stood up and paced around me in small circles, as if encouraging me but also nervous. When I finally reached the side of the wooden lid, I hesitated. My breath turned shallow. The morning air felt colder, and for a moment, I asked myself aloud, am I really going to open this? But the thing is, I already knew the answer. Oliver had brought me here for a reason. This wasn't some random backyard discovery. He didn't scratch my door, lead me outside, and guide me to this exact spot for nothing. My cat, my soft, lazy, sweet Oliver, had sensed something, or heard something, or felt something. And he dragged me here because whatever it was, whatever hid beneath this dirt, it needed to be found. I pressed my fingers beneath the edge of the lid and lifted. The hinges groaned faintly, the wood creaking under the strain of being disturbed after who knows how long buried underground. I held my breath as the lid opened inch by inch, expecting... Honestly, I don't know what I expected. Something terrible. Something that would force me to run. But when the lid finally fell back, revealing what was inside, I froze. Because inside the box lay stacks of papers bound together with string. Old papers. Yellowed. Fragile. Carefully arranged. Alongside them were several small, dust-covered items. A metal key with ornate carvings, a faded photograph tucked inside a plastic sleeve, and a locket with a cracked front. It wasn't what I feared, but it was not comforting either. It was something strange. Something that felt like it belonged in someone's attic or a forgotten safe, not buried beneath an oak tree in my backyard. "What is this?" I whispered again, but this time my voice sounded faint, swallowed by the heavy stillness around me. I reached first for the photograph, because photographs tell stories, and the best way to understand something hidden is to start with the story. Carefully, I pulled it out, brushing off the dirt. A sepia-toned image emerged. 2 young children, a boy and a girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, standing in front of a house that looked eerily similar to mine. Not identical, but close. The kids were smiling, their clothes dated, probably from the 1970s or earlier. Someone had written on the bottom edge in faded ink, E and L, summer, E and L. I wondered who they were, and why their photograph was buried under my tree. Next, I touched the locket. The instant I held it, a strange weight settled into my chest. I don't know if it was the physical heaviness or the emotional kind, but it felt like holding a secret. Its chain was tangled, the metal dull with age. When I opened it, I found 2 tiny portraits, one of a woman with soft curls and gentle eyes, and one of the same little girl from the earlier photograph. Beneath the girl's picture, the engraving read, "Lily. Lily." I whispered the name out loud, and Oliver, hearing the softness in my voice, stepped closer to rub against my knee, as if he understood the importance of the moment. Then I untied the string around the papers and lifted the first sheet. It was brittle, handwritten in neat cursive. I read the first line. "If someone finds this, please read everything before deciding what to do." The handwriting trembled faintly, like the writer's hands weren't steady. I kept reading. "This is for whoever lives here now. This house holds more history than you may realize. And before anyone can be safe, the truth has to stay alive." My throat tightened. I felt the strange sensation of standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing that one more step would change everything, but also knowing I couldn't go back. I kept reading, page after page, and slowly, the story of the children in the photograph unfolded. They had lived on this land before the current house was built, back when it was a single large property owned by their family. The writer described long summer days playing under the oak tree, climbing its branches, making up stories, pretending the world was theirs. But as the pages continued, the tone shifted. Something happened. Something left unfinished in the text. Something hinted at, but never fully explained. The writer mentioned fear, unexpected visitors, strange nights when the children whispered things they shouldn't have known. It wasn't supernatural. It wasn't anything you'd find in horror movies. It was human. Too human. And it became clear that whatever happened scared the writer enough to bury all of this in hopes that someone in the future would uncover the truth. But then, I reached the last page, and everything inside me froze. The final lines read, "To the person who finds this, if the locket was still with the papers, then the key must also be there. Use it. There is something hidden beneath the floor of the shed, something I could not take with me, something that explains what happened to us. I wanted to protect the land, to keep others safe, but time has run out. Please, finish what we could not." My breath shattered in my chest. The shed, the old wooden shed I barely used, the one that came with the house but looked like it hadn't been touched in years before I moved in. The key in the box, ornate, heavy, cold, must have been meant for something inside it. I looked down at Oliver, who was staring not at me, but toward the shed in the distance, watching it, guarding it, almost as if he already knew. "Why did you bring me here?" I whispered, voice trembling. He let out a low, rolling sound, the kind he used when he noticed something outside at night. Not a warning, not fear, but awareness. He took a step toward the shed and waited. That was when I realized something huge. Oliver hadn't just noticed disturbed soil. He hadn't just reacted to something new in the yard. He'd been watching the shed for days. He always sat facing it when he perched on the window ledge. I thought he was bird watching, but now I understood. He'd known something was wrong long before I did. I swallowed hard and gathered the papers, placing them carefully back into the box. I held the key tightly in my hand. It felt heavier now, as if its purpose grew more real with every breath I took. The sun had risen higher, but the yard didn't feel bright. It felt tense, thick with something unspoken. And slowly, I stood up. Oliver followed at my heel as I walked toward the shed. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure he could hear it too. Each step on the cool grass felt like stepping into another chapter, one I wasn't entirely ready for but couldn't avoid. When I reached the shed door, I paused. The old wood was warped, the paint peeling, the lock rusted, a place forgotten, a place avoided. I closed my fingers around the ornate key, feeling its grooves press into my skin. Whatever was inside, whatever this family hid, whatever the children lived through, whatever truth remained trapped under my feet, it had waited long enough. And with Oliver pressed against my leg for courage, I reached for the lock. My hands trembled so hard that the key scraped against the metal before finally slipping into place. The old lock resisted at first, grinding stiffly as if protesting after being untouched for decades. For one terrifying moment, I thought it wouldn't turn. That maybe the key wasn't meant for this. That maybe I had misunderstood the message in the letter entirely. But then, with a dry metallic click, the lock gave in. Oliver pressed forward, brushing between my calves like he wanted to go in first. I stopped him gently with my foot, not wanting him to dash into whatever might be waiting inside. I pushed the door open slowly. It groaned as it swung outward, releasing a draft of stale air that smelled of dust, cold wood, and the quiet, forgotten years of a building that had seen more history than I realized. The interior was dim, except for the light streaming through the door behind me. Dust floated in the air like drifting snowflakes, disturbed by the movement of the door. I had only ever stored a few small things inside: garden clippers, a plastic pot, a folded tarp. I'd never bothered cleaning it because I never thought I needed to, but the place looked older, more brittle, more secretive than I remembered. Oliver followed me in with careful steps, his ears rotating in all directions, his body low and alert. I closed the door halfway behind us to let enough light through to see, but not enough to feel exposed. The shed was quiet, but not silent. There was something about the space, a faint hum in the air. Or maybe that was just the sound of my own heartbeat pounding so fast I could feel it in my throat. I scanned the walls, the floor, the shelves. Nothing looked hidden at first glance. Nothing looked like it required a key. The dirt floor was uneven, compacted from age. There was no trapdoor, no chest, no cabinet with a keyhole. I frowned, my pulse quickening with the tension of not knowing where to begin. But then I remembered the final line of the letter. Beneath the floor of the shed. Not under a plank, not inside a locked box. Beneath the floor. I crouched, running my hand over the packed earth. The ground felt firm, but not entirely solid. I tapped my knuckles against different spots, listening for hollowness or strange vibration, anything that could hint at a cavity below. Oliver circled the shed once, sniffing aggressively. He stopped at one particular place near the left wall and sat down. He didn't move. He just looked at me, then at the ground beneath him, then back at me again. I swallowed. "Here," I whispered. He blinked slowly, as if saying yes. I approached him, brushing my hand over the soil where he sat. That section felt softer, just like the earth beneath the oak tree. Something had disturbed it once. Maybe long ago. Maybe recently. I pushed my fingers deeper, and the dirt parted a little too easily. Grabbed the old gardening shovel leaning against one of the shelves, and started to dig. The shed was small, but the air inside felt thick and heavy as I worked. Each scoop of dirt made the hollow in the ground grow wider, deeper. Oliver didn't leave the spot. He only stepped away enough to avoid the flying dust, then returned, watching with a fixed intensity that made me feel like whatever I was uncovering mattered more than I fully understood yet. After several minutes, the shovel hit something that didn't sound like dirt or rock. A dull, solid thud. My breath hitched. I got on my knees and brushed the dirt away with my hands until the outline of a metal panel appeared beneath the soil. It wasn't large, maybe a square, a bit wider than my shoulders, but it was embedded perfectly into the ground, flush with the surrounding earth except for the area I had just dug away. And on its center was a keyhole. The key in my hand grew heavier, almost magnetically, inevitably, meant for this. I looked at Oliver. He sat quietly, tail curled around his paws, eyes unblinking, breathing steady. "I guess this is it," I whispered. He didn't move. I inserted the key. This time, it turned easily, as if it had been waiting for someone who finally understood its purpose. A soft click echoed through the shed. Then the metal panel trembled. It shifted slightly upward, just enough to slip my fingers beneath its edge. I hesitated for a moment, nerves crackling under my skin, then pushed hard. The panel lifted with a groaning metallic sigh, revealing a dark cavity beneath the shed. A narrow ladder descended into the darkness, swallowed by shadows deeper than natural light could penetrate. The smell that rose from below was musty, old, and layered with time. Not unpleasant, just ancient. Oliver peered down, then looked at me with wide, questioning eyes. "I think we're going down," I whispered, even though the idea terrified me. I had no flashlight, just my phone, but something inside told me I couldn't wait. Whatever the truth was, it had waited decades. It didn't need to wait anymore. Not now that I had found the letter, the locket, the box. Not now that Oliver had forced me into something bigger than both of us. I turned on my phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing wooden walls lining a narrow passage below the ladder. The wood looked old but sturdy, almost like someone had built a hidden room beneath the shed intentionally, carefully. I took a deep breath and descended. Each rung creaked under my weight, and every sound echoed strangely in the hollow room below. As I climbed down, Oliver paced the floor above, uncertain whether to follow. I reached the bottom, and the small space came into full view. It was no larger than a walk-in closet, but it was filled with objects. Carefully arranged shelves lined the walls, holding dozens of small items. Journals, jars sealed with wax, trinkets, letters bundled with faded ribbons, and small wooden boxes with carvings I didn't recognize. There was a child's toy, an old metal car, and a folded cloth that looked like part of a child's blanket. Everything was preserved meticulously, almost lovingly, as if someone had wanted to keep this hidden place untouched by time. My flashlight slid across the far wall and illuminated a symbol carved into the wood, an intertwined E and L, the initials from the photograph. E and L, Ethan and Lily, the children. My breath trembled in my chest. I approached one of the shelves and picked up the nearest journal. It was small, bound with string. Written on the cover in childish handwriting were the words, "Lily's notes. Don't read unless you believe me." I opened it slowly. Her handwriting was messy, uneven, the handwriting of a child. The first pages were simple, scribbles about her daily life, her favorite games, the way her brother Ethan always tried to make her laugh. She wrote about climbing trees, about making up adventures in the woods, about hiding from imaginary monsters they invented to keep themselves entertained. But around the middle of the journal, the entries changed. She wrote about things she heard in the night, conversations between adults she didn't understand, arguments, threats, secrets she wasn't supposed to know. Her writing got shakier with each entry. One line made my heart lurch. Mom said if anything happens to us, someone in the future has to tell the truth. She said everything gets forgotten unless someone keeps the story alive. I turned another page, then another, and then I reached the final entry. A short one, written hurriedly. "If someone finds this, please remember us. We tried to be brave. We tried to help. Ethan told me to hide these things down here. He said someday someone will understand. Please let them understand." I closed the journal slowly, my hands trembling. This wasn't a treasure. It wasn't a mystery game. It was a time capsule of fear and love and childhood innocence, thrown into something far heavier than kids should ever have carried. Oliver meowed softly from above, and the sound echoed into the small underground room like a reminder that I wasn't alone. I looked around again and noticed one final object tucked beside the wall, a sealed envelope with my address on it. My address. Not handwritten decades ago, not faded ink, fresh, clear. like someone had written it recently. My blood turned cold. I picked it up with shaking fingers and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of clean paper. The message was short, terrifying in its simplicity. If Oliver found the box, then you're in danger too. Leave the shed, take what matters, and do not stay outside after sunset. I stared at the words so long my vision blurred. The letter wasn't old, and whoever wrote it knew my cat's name. Suddenly, the air felt too still, too silent. The underground room didn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. It felt like a warning, a desperate one. I shoved the journal into my shirt, grabbed the locket from my pocket, slid the ornate key into my jeans, and took one last look at the hidden room. I didn't know who wrote the warning. I didn't know what danger they meant. But the urgency in their words felt real, too real to ignore. I climbed the ladder so quickly I scraped my elbow against the wall. Oliver greeted me with frantic pacing, his tail puffed, his ears pinned back. "It's okay," I whispered breathlessly, even though I didn't believe it myself. "We're getting inside." I grabbed him, pulled him against my chest, and raced back toward the house. The moment I stepped outside, a strange feeling washed over me, like eyes were on me, like the backyard wasn't safe anymore. Not with what I knew, not with what I had uncovered. I dashed across the grass, barefoot and panting, Oliver gripping my shirt with his claws. The back door felt miles away, but I reached it, slammed it shut, and locked it. Then I closed the curtains, clutching Oliver tightly while trying to catch my breath. Inside the safety of my living room, everything felt too quiet, too still. Oliver buried his face against me, purring shakily, the way he did when he was scared and wanted reassurance but also wanted to comfort me. I held him close, whispering, "You saved me. You really did." The truth was still unraveling. I didn't know who left the letter addressed to me. I didn't know what danger they meant. I didn't know what happened to Ethan and Lily, or why someone wanted me, now, decades later, to pick up where they left off. But I knew one thing for certain. Oliver had sensed something long before I did. He had dragged me outside because he knew staying inside, unaware, was worse. He led me to the box because he somehow understood that everything hidden beneath my backyard mattered. And when he pressed against me now, trembling, it felt like he was telling me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That night, as the sun dipped past the horizon and the shadows in the backyard stretched longer than they should have, I kept the curtains shut and the lights dim. I carried the journal, the locket, and the key into my bedroom. I placed them carefully on my bed beside me as Oliver curled against my side, refusing to leave even for a second. I reread the warning. "Do not stay outside after sunset." I didn't understand it, but I obeyed it. Hours passed. I tried to sleep, but every small sound outside made me jolt awake. Oliver lifted his head at each noise, eyes glowing faintly in the dimness, his body rigid. At some point deep into the night, the house grew silent again. But not the peaceful kind of silence. It was the charged, heavy quiet you get right before a storm. A quiet that feels like the world is holding its breath. Then Oliver suddenly stood up, hackles raised, staring at the window. I held my breath. I didn't go look. I didn't want to know what he saw or sensed out there. Morning finally came, and the world brightened again in that soft golden hue that usually comforts me. But today, nothing felt normal. I looked outside only once, just enough to see that the backyard looked undisturbed. But that didn't soothe me, because I knew things were different now. I had pieces of someone else's story in my hands. I had a letter written to me by someone who knew what I'd find. And something out there, something that unsettled both the children and my cat decades later, still lingered. In the days that followed, I spent hours reading through every journal and letter, piecing together the fragments of Ethan and Lily's lives. I learned about the things they overheard, the people who visited their home late at night, the arguments between adults that never made sense to them, the threats whispered behind closed doors, the reason they buried everything, hiding it from someone they feared. It wasn't supernatural. It wasn't anything from horror movies or ghost stories. It was human, and that made it all the more terrifying. Their family had been caught in something dangerous, something illegal, something tied to people who didn't want their secrets exposed. When things escalated, the children did the only thing they could. They hid the evidence. They built a secret room beneath the shed, using the help of someone they trusted, someone older, someone who must have survived long enough to leave the letter addressed to me decades later, someone who knew the danger wasn't really gone, someone who knew the land still held secrets that someone else wanted forgotten. I realized something chilling. Whoever wrote that letter had been watching my house. They knew Oliver had found the box. They knew I needed to get inside before sunset. They knew something, or someone, still kept an eye on this place. And that person, or those people, might return. But the truth was finally in the open now. Even if I didn't fully understand it yet, I had the pieces. And I had proof. Proof someone might want back. Oliver seemed to understand that things had changed too. He watched the backyard constantly, especially the shed. He didn't go near the windows at night anymore. Or if he did, he pressed himself close to me afterward, trembling until he fell asleep. But through everything, he never left my side. He made sure I wasn't alone. He reminded me constantly that he had found all of this for a reason. And deep down, I knew he saved me from walking blindly into something far bigger than I was prepared for. I don't know yet what I'll do with everything I found. Maybe I'll take it to someone I trust. Maybe I'll research more about the land's past. Maybe I'll search for descendants of Ethan and Lily, if any exist, to give them the truth they never got. But I know one thing without question. My life changed the moment Oliver dragged me into the backyard. He saved me from ignorance. He saved me from danger. He saved me from learning the truth too late. And now, the truth lives with me. Because someone had to keep the story alive. And Oliver, my sweet, lazy, heroic cat, made sure I was the one to find it. Thank you so much for listening to my story and staying with me until the end. Your support means more than you know. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves animals as much as we do. Every bit of support helps us keep telling stories like this one. Thank you again for being here. Truly. And may you and your pets always stay safe and protected.